where I think a lot of parents are like, hey, I'm going to do everything for you and protect you and shelter you. And, you're going to go off to college at 18 and magically you're going to turn into an adult. Like, I don't know how it's going to happen because I'm not going to teach you how to do it, but it's just going to happen naturally. And it's like, no, I think that's bullcrap. Like, let me teach you right now while you're in like pre-K, some important things here, some lessons, some skills that really translates to responsibility and to contributing to our family and ultimately teaching you, because both our girls are daughters, like how to be a mom, a future wife, those kind of things.
Welcome back to another episode of The Donkey and the Bee with your hosts, Brett and Laura Shotkavis. We got the donkey and we got the bee right here. And we talk all things marriage, entrepreneurship, and finances. And today is kind of a mix, I think, because we're talking about kids today and we're talking about responsibility. And this was kind of brought up because we were speaking with a few people at our gym the other morning. And we were leaving after our workout. And we were kind of joking about our kids, and we're like, oh yeah, our kids will probably have our coffee ready by the time we get home. And the couple looked at us like, well, aren't your kids really young? And at the time, this was a couple years ago, and they were like, I was like, yeah, they're like 7 and 9. And they're like, they're making your coffee? I'm like, yeah, but it's not just any coffee. Like, they're making like a pour over coffee. They're taking whole beans, they're grinding them in the grinder, they're like weighing them and like pouring over, the hot water over the coffee and everything.
V60.
Exactly. The V60 pour over, which if you're a coffee lover, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they're letting it bloom.
They literally know what all that means. And this couple looked at us like, oh my gosh, you serious? Your kids are making you pour over coffee? And so it's so normal to us now, right? Like it was normal. It's like, yeah, your kids don't. Like,
Right.
And so it kind of sparked a conversation with this couple about teaching kids responsibility. And so I thought it was important to talk to everyone, all the listeners out there, about teaching your kids responsibility and how important it is.
Yeah. Well, our girls, I guess really here's the underlying principle is I've treated them like they're an adult since they're probably like 6 years old, right? And I think for me, being an adult is not an age number. It's not like, oh, I'm 18 and now I'm an adult, or I moved out of my parents' house and now I'm an adult, right? It's more of a mindset, right? Like I came at it from this mindset that I can teach you how to do these things and then I can back away and let you do them. And you're probably going to fail the first few times. And that's totally okay, right? As a parent, my job is to ultimately teach you to be a good adult, not to teach you how to be a good kid. So I'm going to teach you these things and then let you fail and then come alongside you and then show you again, and then you're going to get it right. And I think that really transitions into responsibility. Because we started with the littlest things from when they were, like 4 and 6 years old, right? They started their first business at that age, from lemonade stand to making jewelry to growing that business. And then we took it really on the family side, on the personal side, how to teach them responsibility to contribute to the family. And I think that even at that age, even at 4 and 6 years old, they need to really pull their own weight. And I think that comes back to this mindset of I'm going to treat you like an adult. Like if we were a caveman family, right? Like your job is to go and get water, or like I'm going to go hunt and whatever it is, like you need to pull your own weight. And I kind of came at it from that perspective where I think a lot of parents are like, hey, I'm going to do everything for you and protect you and shelter you. And, you're going to go off to college at 18 and magically you're going to turn into an adult. Like, I don't know how it's going to happen because I'm not going to teach you how to do it, but it's just going to happen naturally. And it's like, no, I think that's bullcrap. Like, let me teach you right now while you're in like pre-K, some important things here, some lessons, some skills that really translates to responsibility and to contributing to our family and ultimately teaching you, because both our girls are daughters, like how to be a mom, a future wife, those kind of things.
I see it in a lot of adults today, and maybe it's coming from their own insecurity and their own limiting beliefs on their own. But a lot of adults tend to think that kids aren't capable of doing things that adults can do. And we see this every weekend when the girls have their market days and they're selling jewelry. If you guys don't know, our kids, they have a jewelry business called Kylan & Co. They've been doing it for about 5 years now. And they'll do, market day events on the weekend. And there'll be adults coming up to them and questioning if this was actually their business, questioning if they actually make these things because they themselves believe that they can't do it. So they put those limiting beliefs on our kids. And so I think if they're doing it to our kids, then they're definitely doing it to their own kids. And so I think that we don't have those limiting beliefs. I think that we really think our kids can do anything. Like if my daughter came up to me and said like, I want to be an astronaut and go to the moon, or I want to be the next billionaire, or I want to be the next president of the United States, like, cool. What can I do to help you? Like, I'm not going to say you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because who am I to say?
Brooklyn came up to me last week or so and said she was going to be a billionaire. But she didn't say it in like the way kids do dreaming. She was like, yeah, I'm going to be a billionaire. And I'm like, I know you are. Like you started at 6 years old.
Yes,
I know you're going to be a billionaire.
Exactly.
Right? Like you bought your first investment. You're on your way.
Exactly. So I think this is the underlying problem of what we're talking about here is I think it comes back to the adults. The adults are having limited beliefs in themselves, pushing on their kids, but then they're also not teaching them because they think they can't do it, right? Like, oh, I'm just going to do it myself because I don't think you can do your own laundry. I'm going to do it for you. Like, it's laundry. You put it in a machine and put soap in it and press start. Like, It's not hard. Like, so.
But the chemicals, there's chemicals there, right? Like the moms have to protect. They need to make sure they stay a child until they're 25 years old.
Literally. And maybe that's it too. Maybe I think a lot of parents have a hard time, quote unquote, letting go. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's fantastic when they learn new tasks and they're blossoming and they're growing. Why would I want to do it for them? I feel like that's just hindering their development and their growth as an adult. And so the reason why y'all probably listen to this is because you all agree with us. You totally understand where we're coming from. And if you're new to this show and you're listening to it and you're like, wow, those people are crazy, it's cool. You don't have to listen. It's fine.
We're totally crazy.
We are totally crazy. I know, totally admit it. We're weird. We are not normal.
Extreme.
So we are very extreme. Yes.
I love being extreme.
Yes, we're very extreme. So,
I hate the sheep.
Yes, we are definitely lions, not sheep. So we are raising our kids to be lions, not sheep.
Yeah. So let's give some examples here or some context for, how people can teach their kids responsibility. So we literally started young, right? And we talked about this example of we're at the gym. And I think that was part of the catalyst, at least on the family side, right? Because they already had their businesses going, right? So we were teaching them finance. We were teaching them, even like profit and loss statements, all sorts of stuff. We've been doing that since they were 4 and 6 years old, starting with lemonade stand. But then we transitioned into like, how do you contribute to the family and responsibility in that way? And I think the catalyst for that was the gym, because we'd go to the gym at 5 a.m. And so we would get back from the gym and they were still sleeping. And then we'd be able to wake them up, and they were young, little at that time. And so we'd help them, wake up and all that kind of stuff. And for whatever reason, something transitioned where we started either going to the gym later or we went to a new gym, I don't remember. But it was like, hey, there's this pattern. They knew that we were going to be gone for about an hour and a half. And then we would come back and we'd wake them up. Then it was like, okay, you need to get up earlier. Actually, I think they started going on the bus.
Exactly.
Started going on the bus, early. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. So now it was like, hey, we're going to be gone, right? Like you need to set your alarm. You need to get up and you need to get your school clothes on, brush your teeth and everything. And then about 30 minutes later, we're going to be back and we'll make sure you get on the bus and everything, but we're not going to be here. If you sleep in, like you're going to miss the bus, right? We'll be home in time, but you're not going to be ready. So there was like this responsibility. They knew that it was okay that mom and dad had this pattern of we were usually gone and we'll be back in time. But then it was like, okay, well, that's what it is. I'm going to set my alarm. We showed them how to do it. We taught them. And then it was like, well, now here's the new routine. Here's the new expectation. I'm going to get up on my own, get dressed, put on my school clothes, brush my teeth. And it was like, okay, great. Then we got home. They were already up, dressed, ready, doing their thing, having breakfast. And then we helped them make lunch and get ready for the day and get their backpack and sent them off. Right. And I think that was kind of the first stage or first step where they were learning independence and responsibility, taking these things and doing it. And I think building confidence in becoming an adult.
I think after that, shortly after that, actually, they came home from school one day and were like, Mom, I don't really like the lunches that you make. And lunches were like the biggest stressor for me. I don't know why. It was like such a stressful thing to do in the morning. And my first response was like, I wasn't mad. I was just like, okay, well, if you don't like lunches that I make, then let's have you make your own lunch then. And it wasn't.
I think you might have said it with a little more attitude.
Maybe I did. But they're like, okay. So then we set like underlying rules, underlying principles of, good food versus bad food, God-made food versus, man-made food, and choosing the good over the bad, choosing more good than bad. And good, I mean like from the refrigerator, not from the pantry. Bad is the pantry food.
Not the processed food.
Exactly. Good is the God-made food, the real food, fruits and vegetables and such. And so we gave them parameters, right? It was almost like we gave them rules. And then they were allowed to kind of roam free within those parameters. And so that's what they started doing. They'd get up from their alarm, they'd get dressed, brush their hair, brush their teeth, come down, make their own breakfast, make our coffee, and then they would make their own lunches. And since then, they have not complained about their lunches. And we'll check their lunches every now and again. I'm not like a helicopter mom. I don't like to check it every day. But there are certain times where I check it. I'm like, okay, whoa. There's a little too much of the pantry items here. Let's like put a little bit more of the refrigerator items in here. So like, there's some correction in there. But for the most part, I mean, they do fantastic. They make it by themselves every day. They take their own water bottles. They fill it up with fresh water every morning. I mean, they don't even need us in the morning besides from driving them to school.
Yeah. Well, thinking from this perspective is this, and from our experience too, is like mom's biggest stressor in the morning, right? You have all this stuff you got to do. You got to get ready. You got to do your makeup. You got to get the kids dressed. You have to make the kids lunches. Usually the kids are running amok. They sleep in, right? You have to wake them up. All this stuff you have to do as a mom or dad, as a parent, right? All of that stuff is very, very reasonable that by 8 years old, they can do completely on their own, right? Our kids have been doing it on their own for several years, right? And really, like you said, we don't do anything. I get home from the gym in the morning, take my shower. The girls are doing their own thing. I'm reading my Bible. I'm reading the news. I'm having my time, right? Like before I start my day, and you're having your time while the kids are setting themselves up for their own day. And then we drive them to school, and then that's it, right? Like there's no reason that the kids can't pull their own weight. Making your lunch, getting dressed, brushing your teeth, those are not big, like you need a degree to be able to do these things, right? Like why can't parents just teach, here's a simple guidelines, here's rules to these things, right? Like, and then to add on to that with these lunches, it really helped because now here was a setup to another opportunity of responsibility, which was going to the grocery store or ordering food. So we do most of our food ordering online, right? We'll order, it gets delivered. And so now that's like, hey girls, we're starting an order, right? Like throw in the stuff you guys want, right? So now they're going in and they're putting in all their lunch items, right? So now it's like, okay, well, hey, we're setting these principles again, right? Like if you're going to have processed food or cookies, okay, that's fine. Just have a little bit, but we need fruits, vegetables. You want hummus, you want carrots, right? Do you want cucumbers? You want strawberries? What are you having there, right? Like get all of those things. And so they go in on the computer, they type all this stuff in, put it in the cart, and we check it at the end, approve it, and like order it. And so now it's like, here's another stepping stone in really becoming a successful adult. How do you grocery shop? How do you do these things? I mean, they set all that stuff up, and actually a lot of times now they're like, hey mom, I'm going to do an order, right? Like here's everything in the cart. Can you check it and pay? It's like, okay, well, cool. Now our weekly grocery shopping's done and I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, they don't just order food for themselves. They kind of know what we like too. And so they'll put our favorite,
they're always buying fillets
or whatever. I know. Literally. They'll put all our favorite meats and whatever else in there because they go back on like orders from the past and they'll see what we've ordered and they'll put it in there. But like, so then again, it's not just they're thinking about them and their own wants. They're thinking about the family wants as well, not just themselves. And so it's taking them outside of their own self and putting the family first too. But I did want to add on one thing on this food. I asked the girls on the way home from school today, because I knew we were going to be doing this podcast. I asked them, hey, what's one area that you think mom and dad have taught you responsibility in? And they both looked at me like, why are you asking me this question? But my youngest daughter said, you taught us how to eat healthy. And I thought that was so, I love that she said that. I thought it was super interesting she said that because she said most of the kids in my class, they eat like Lunchables or like candy, cookies, and there's no like substance, there's nothing healthy. It's nothing God made or from the refrigerator. It's everything from the pantry. And so I thought that was really cool that she said that you're teaching us how to eat healthy, because she knows how important that is to me. And so I think that's maybe why she said that. But that's a role that parents need to take, teaching your kids how to eat. It's appropriate. Super important. I don't think parents are doing anything near what they should be doing. No. Regarding exercise and controlling what you're eating and teaching principles to food. Right? Exactly. Like
the principles we teach, there's two that I say over and over again. And I'm sure they will tell their great grandkids because I've said it so many dang times, right? It's good before bad. So you always have your good before your bad. You want to have dessert, no problem, right? But have good before you have your bad. And then more good than bad, right? Like don't make your lunch with 3 things of cookies and all sorts of sugar stuff, right? Like maybe one's okay. We have more good than you have bad. And so I think that's a perfect analogy or guiding principle for food. But I take the same approach towards work and play, right? Like you can go play with your friends. That's no problem. But it's good before bad. So it's almost like work before play, more work than play. Like get all your stuff done, get your responsibilities done, and then go have your fun. It's totally fine. Use these as guiding principles towards a lot of things in life.
I think maybe the issue for a lot of individuals is this comes down to you being the true example. So we are very much in tune with what we teach our kids, and we're very hyper aware that we are not hypocritical toward what we are teaching them, that what we are saying to them and what we are encouraging them to do is something that we do ourselves. So I think that may be where there may be an underlying issue with the parenting nowadays and teaching their kids, is because the parents aren't really taking the responsibility themselves to actually then teach the kids the responsibility. So again, I know I said this in the beginning, it starts with the parent. It starts with the parent stepping up, eating healthy, working out, showing your kids daily habits that you do, reading your Bible, praying, date nights with your spouse. How do you talk to your spouse when you're in a disagreement? I mean, there's so many different things that you can be an example to your kids, but you can't expect your kids to react or respond in a positive way if you're not doing that yourself.
Yeah, that's true. So there was another, I guess, strategy here that we implemented for teaching responsibility with our girls. And one of them was trading work for reward. And what I mean by that is our daughters, they would be begging us to go on date nights. They're literally like every single week, like, Dad, Mom, go on a date night. When's the next date night, right? Like, because ultimately we usually order pizza and then watch a movie, and they watch a movie, right? And, you know, we've said this before, but we have locks on all our TVs and everything, and their iPads, there's time limits. So they're not sitting there binging TV. But usually when we go on a date night, they'll put on a movie or two, right? And they might watch 3 hours or more of TV while we're out. And so we kind of have a hard time with watching that much TV in a row. Like, I want you to be productive, have balance of things. So it was like, okay, well, kind of we got into as we got into this habit of it, it was like my older daughter was like, okay, you know what? If you turn on the TV for me so I can watch this movie, I'll do the dishes. And right, the kitchen and the living room right there next to each other. Like, okay, deal, right? Like when we get home, you're gonna do the dishes, right? You're gonna have this clean. And my other daughter's like, yeah, and I'll have the dining room, living room clean. I'm like, okay, cool. We'll turn on the TV, you get this done, right? And after you finish it, you feel free to watch a movie, and we'll catch up when we get home. And then it actually became kind of this pattern where it was like, hey, we're kind of negotiating here, right? Like, I will help the family. I'll contribute in this way. I'm gonna do the dishes and clean the living room and clean dining room and stuff. And then it became like, all of a sudden, it was no longer the only times when we were going on a date night. All of a sudden, it was like they built this habit. We were trading, right? We were trading this reward. And now all of a sudden, it became like, oh, I've already done this a dozen times, right? Like, it's just natural to me now. Then we'll get home, we say nothing. And it's like the kitchen's clean. Like, literally, like all the dishes are done. Mm-hmm. She pulled everything off the bar, wiped it all down. Like, everything looks like the housekeeper clean. Like, it's really, really clean. And it's like, man, like my girls, like they did an amazing job, right? We didn't say anything. They now have this habit of cleaning. And I think it really started with this principle because they were still kind of young, right? Like, all right, we'll trade you this, right? You're going to get this fun time, maybe more than we would have normally done, but you're going to work for it. And now it became this habit that or maybe they've kind of developed in themselves, where I think they're really taking this to how to be, you know, an adult, how to be a mom, how to be a wife. These are the core of learning these things on the business side, but also on the personal kind of family side.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you incorporate this responsibility with your kids, when you start however young, 3, 4, you are going to hit some resistance. And this resistance comes from listening to their friends from school not talk about the responsibility they have at home. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so when you put responsibility on your kids, they're going to say, well, my friends don't do this, Mom. And our kids know not to say that anymore because we don't care what their friends' parents do. We are not the parents to their friends. We are your parents. So it is not a comparison game. We are not, I would teach their friends if they come over our rules and how it happens in our house. And we do that very often, but essentially they're not our kids. So I'm not going to, force them to do dishes when they're here. But I'm telling you this as a forewarning that you will hit resistance because you will be different than the norm. And that is something that actually we really enjoy. Brett and I really enjoy, it's the saying, dare to be different. Like that's totally us. We're just totally different. We're swimming upstream while everyone's going downstream because we are raising our kids not in the average traditional way that most parents do in this generation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of why we started out that way, right? We're going to be different. We're going to be weird. And our girls know, right? Like we're just not going to stand out. And if other parents don't do it, it doesn't bother us at all. Mm-hmm. And they learned the hard way. Don't compare to other kids because like that's just going to make us dig our heels. And now we're going to have to do this way more and way harder. So I think one of the last things I want to talk about with responsibility is relating to money and finances, right? Like we spent a lot of time on finances, on money, on spending, on giving, generosity with them. And a lot of that is really responsibility, right? They have their own business. They have an adult amount of money to spend on different things. And with that, it becomes a lot of choices, a lot of things they can do with their money. And so we split, the girls split all of their income, right? 70% they save and they purchase assets. 10% they give, they tithe, or they give to the church or some other person that they're going to give to help. And then 20% they get to spend on their own. But that's 20% of a good amount of money. And for a kid who doesn't have real bills, that's a lot of money to be able to spend. So we took this same idea and we said, hey, we need to teach you responsibility. You have a large amount of money that you get to spend here. And what does that look like? So we took some guiding principles here. And I think that it's important to kind of talk through that because as a parent, I am here to teach them how to responsibly spend money. And so there was a lot of no's, a lot of veto power from you and I in the beginning, and a lot of pushback from them saying, hey, Mom, this is my money. Like, this is my spending money, right? I've already set aside 80% towards saving and giving, right? Like, this is what I worked hard for, and I do all these events. Why don't I get to spend it? And you know what? Here, it really comes back to the principle. You can spend it, right? But nonetheless, I don't want you buying junk. Right? A lot of kids spend the money on junk, and I want to teach you, let's find something valuable, right? If this is your spending money and you want to do it, let me teach you how to be an adult, because most parents never teach their kids lots of different things, including how to spend money. They'll teach them how to pay their bills, but what do you do with the rest of the money, right? Are they teaching them to give? Are they teaching them to save? What about the spending money you have budgeted? Are you just spending on anything, on junk food, on toys, on like, what are you actually buying? So we kind of went through that really with a lot of here's principle, and then let me come with the veto power. No, we can't get that. No, we can't get that. And it was honestly not fun, but it was the first few months of this as we're teaching them and saying, okay, here's stuff you want some of this toys? Like, let's get stuff that's not junk, right? Like, honestly, if you buy that, it's going to break and I'm going to throw it away next week. Let's not get that. That's wasting your money. But if you want some cool toys, let's put some money together. Let's save up. Let's get this cool stuff that's well made that you're really going to appreciate. And so there was a lot of lessons there, but now I think that there is a lot of responsibility, not only with the spending part, but with the generosity part, with the saving part as well. So what do you see as the biggest lesson that we taught them regarding finances, responsibility towards our finances?
I would have to say the giving. So like you said, they give 10% of everything they make to the church or to people in need. And I've seen them purchase food for homeless and like literally have the food and walk up to them and hand it to the individuals. And then as they turn around, I've seen their smile. And so I know how much it means to them to be able to give. And I've heard them say it countless times that they really love giving and that's something that they really enjoy. And I think cultivating that within your kids is so important because I don't think that kids have an opportunity to do that. And so that's not a habit that's instilled within them as they become adults. And so I think that we're cultivating that within them and they're excited to do it. And I know that's something they're going to continue doing even as they're adults. And I think that is the utmost importance out of everything that we could teach them about money. That is something that we really want to instill in them. And I think that we have.
Yeah. Honestly, they give so much from their business and everywhere that I have a hard time, like, because I almost want to tell them, stop giving so much.
We have to tell them, I know, because sometimes they're just giving away jewelry all the time. Yeah.
Like literally, like these are your customers. They're giving you a credit card. No, you can have it for free. I'm like, babe, like that's $50. Like you're here to make money. You spent money to buy this vendor event location,
Yes.
right? Like you got to make some money.
Yes.
And so, yeah, they're just like incredibly generous. But I think because I'm naturally a conservative with my money type of person, I'm like, hey, you're already giving 10%. I know you give more than that. But I always bite my tongue because I don't know how to teach that lesson about like almost frivolous giving, like so much. Mm-hmm. But I guess it's from the perspective they're not paying for their own food or their utilities or their roof over their head. I mean, they have an abundance to be able to give with. So again, I just let them give with abundance. Mm-hmm. But again, I think that there is a lesson of almost wastefulness there that they are approaching, but I haven't found the words to be able to teach that appropriately.
I mean, you can't have a successful business by giving away a lot of your inventory or product.
Yeah.
Or services. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's a lesson to be learned there.
Yeah, there is. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of The Donkey and the Bee. I hope you learned some fantastic tips that you can take to your little ones and teach them responsibility and pull some of that work off of that family load. So if you like this, hit the like and subscribe button, and we will see you on the next one.